Dads, what's the funniest thing your son has done to impress a girl? My 12-year-old walked in, stole my dinner seat, and immediately got to it. He said, I have a girlfriend now. I said, you also have homework now, but he blinked at me like I was background noise. Then he said it, clear as a weather alert. I want to invite her over for a movie night, at my table, in my house, using my electricity and, apparently, my patience. I told him we'd discuss it, which in dad means no, but in 12-year-old means negotiations. 2 hours later, he slid a spreadsheet across the table like a tiny executive. It showed what he planned to do, how the date would go, and how he would ask her out. It also said I could be nearby monitoring if I want to. Well dang, that was pretty convincing. I caved, because fatherhood is just a series of cave-ins with receipts. The second I said yes, he transformed into planning mode. He bought candles, the unscented kind, he explained, because we need to respect allergies. He scattered fake rose petals on the coffee table like he'd rented the Eiffel Tower for an hour. He asked me to dim the ambience, which is not a button in my house. When I walked into the living room, the lamp had a scarf over it and the dog was wearing a bow tie. I asked why the dog was dressed like a magician and he said, it's formal. He had a playlist called Entry Theme. He had a backup playlist called Entry Theme, cleaner version. Then I found him at the computer, hunched like a researcher in a documentary, typing best movies for first date that are not scary but still impressive. He read reviews out loud, doing voices, and highlighted words like wholesome pacing. He asked me if cinematography makes you sound mature or pretentious, and if so, could he still say it? I said say it once and then talk about snacks. He nodded like I had given him the coordinates to adulthood. The kitchen started clanking. He was watching 3 YouTube videos for Fancy Dinner Easy, learning how to become chef like it was a speed run. He held a stainless steel pan like a sacred artifact and whispered, sear. He put on my apron, rolled the straps 5 times, and demanded I call him chef. He squeezed a lemon with the intensity of a man writing his memoir. He burned 1 piece of garlic bread and then announced it was for Depp. By the time the doorbell rang, our home looked like a budget prom in a furniture store. Mom became surveillance from upstairs behind the plant. The neighbor walked by, saw rose petals through the window, and texted me congrats on the engagement. I said, it's my son's first date. He is 12. And she sent back 3 crying emojis and a prayer candle. She arrived, tiny backpack, big smile, holding a DVD like a museum artifact. He lowered his voice 3 octaves and said, welcome to my establishment. She walked in and saw his presentation and couldn't help but say, this is quite the fancy house. I did the necessary parent talk to them both before they went off to go watch TV and said that I would be sending pictures to her mom also. He ushered her to the couch, offered sparkling cider, and managed to pop the cap directly into a bowl of chip. He pretended it was intentional. Snack flare. She giggled and my son stood 2 inches taller. Dinner time, he presented plates like a waiter in a commercial. Pasta with a swirl, questionable steak with capers, garlic bread, and 1 piece suspiciously labeled Depp. He said, I cooked this. And I swear he had a British accent for the word cook. She said, wow, you really did all this? He said, absolutely. It is about care and technique. Then looked at me to see if that sounded mature or pretentious. I gave him a thumbs up and ate a Dorito like I was judging MasterChef. They took a bite. He watched her face like it was the stock market. She chewed, smiled, and then quietly said, this is very good, but I'm not much of a steak person. Time slowed. The candles flickered like they knew. My son blinked 3 times like a Wi-Fi router resetting. Then he recovered. Good thing I also prepared a vegetarian option and sprinted to the kitchen like a cartoon. The vegetarian option was grapes, 2 slices of American cheese, and a bowl of plain pasta labeled with a sticky note that said no cow. She loved it. They laughed, clinked plastic cups, and started the movie. I stayed in the kitchen pretending to wash the same plate for 20 minutes so I could hear their commentary. He whispered, the cinematography, and she said, the snacks, and I heard him switch to snacks for the rest of time. Once they finished the movie, they exchanged gummy bear rings like diplomats and stood by the door like a tiny rom-com. She said, thanks for dinner, chef, and he said, of course, anytime. She waved to me and the dog, told him, your house smells like bread in a good way, and left. He closed the door, leaned back, and exhaled like he had just run a marathon in church shoes. I said, you okay there? He nodded, wiped his hands on the apron, and said, Dad, quick question. I said, shoot it. He said, how expensive is a chocolate fountain?